Hey guys, my name is Brandon and welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you like what you see in here, you're more than welcome to hit the subscribe button so you stay notified every time I upload a new video. Okay, let's get straight on with today's video. Hello and welcome to the Sharing Thoughts podcast. My name is Brandon and I am your host for this, I would say podcast, but I haven't really recorded anything, so I'd call it more of a podcoming cast. But yeah, the last podcast I actually recorded was back in September 2019 with a guest called Naomi Duben, who actually got her 15 minutes of fame after recreating James Charles as art. Now, I just want to say that that was probably my most favourite podcast to record, and I did actually have a few other guests that I'd recorded podcasts with, but for some reason the sound didn't work, my microphone didn't work, and had to just sort of discard everything. But hopefully I can get those guests back on. But I thought I would actually do daily podcasts now, depending on how much work I've managed to get to do. So depending on how much work I manage to do, or depending on how much free time I have, I just thought, you know what, I'll do a sort of summary of the day before. So I'm currently recording this on the 2nd of April, and obviously yesterday was the 1st of April. So I thought, actually, why don't I just reflect on what happened yesterday? So obviously, everyone's in this sort of period of being isolated, or should be isolating, should we say. There are still a few people that aren't really listening to the rules around. And actually, these last couple of weeks have been very, very interesting. It sort of went from the coronavirus situation not being that serious and people not really talking about it. And I don't know, people were just living their normal lives, and all of a sudden, right, you've got to stay in your house. There's restrictions on this. People have to wear masks. People have to wear gloves. Washing your hands for 20 seconds for a variety of different songs. And it just went from being this not scary thing at all to probably the most scariest thing I've experienced in my life. Now, I'm not going to say this hasn't affected me personally, because it has. And it's just sort of restricted the amount of time that I can spend socializing with people. Because obviously now my socializing is being done online or with myself through a podcast or filming a YouTube video or something. Um, but I think the situation has just it's just separated people. And I know that over the last couple of months and years and centuries, I'm sure, there's people talking about, oh, people need to hang out more, people need to, I don't know, socialize more, go out and do things rather than just spending time in their own rooms. Well, obviously now we've all been forced to stay at home. And the only reasons we'd be allowed to go out would be for collecting medication, getting groceries, or just going for like one or two daily walks. I think it's one, but again, people don't follow those rules. In terms of the numbers, I have seen a humongous growth in terms of deaths in not just England, but other countries like Italy, Spain, America. I think India now started to have a few deaths. And it is very, very scary, but it's just one of those situations that we can't help out on, because we're not doctors, we don't work for the NHS, we don't know what's going on. Or me personally, I don't know, I don't really have a clue what's going on. There's obviously all these rumors and speculations on things that have started the pandemic. I think it was something to do with China, that they were selling or trading wild animals, which is a dangerous thing to do anyway. But the fact that they did it and it obviously went out of control meant that something's happened, and something's got into the hands of the wrong person, or it's gone it's just turned into a bad situation basically, and it's now spread globally. So it's not even just in one country, it's now all over the world. And there's doctors, and there are NHS people, and there are nurses, and there are all sorts of people that are coming onto different news stations, radio shows, podcast stations, to talk about this issue and to talk about the situation. And actually, like I said, a lot of people just don't take it seriously. And obviously, nobody has experienced anything like this before. We've had colds, we've had like Brexit and stuff like that. But in terms of a pandemic that is literally killing people, I even just was listening to the radio station yesterday, and there was a statistic saying that only 2 in every 30,000 young children would be the unlucky ones. Yet 2 young children did actually die of the pandemic. 2 young children did actually die of the coronavirus already. I think the 13-year-old, there's an 18-year-old in a different country. And although they are working very, very hard, it's the problem of the people that don't listen, what is potentially creating an even more harmful situation. And I think what I mean by that is, again, on a variety of different radio shows and a different variety of stations, there are people that are sort of saying, you need to not go out, basically. You need to sort of stay in your house. You need to stay away from other people, unless it's the people that you're isolating with. And yes, if you've got elderly relatives, you can go and leave food outside their house, but obviously you can't sort of be in a close proximity to them, which is very, very difficult, especially if, for example, there's an old disabled person who needs to rely on somebody else. They're basically now not able to rely on these people, or if they are, the people that are helping are now putting themselves in potential danger just in case that person has caught something. And I think it's just a very, very stressful situation for everyone. And that's why I thought, you know what, why don't I just start doing a podcast? This is something that I debated on and off. And I actually thought, you know what, I want to do something that can sort of lighten the mood, or that I can get other people on to talk about, or whether I just talk on my own like I'm doing now. And just whoever listens, and whoever doesn't, obviously doesn't. But yeah, so what happened on the 1st of April for me was just sort of reflecting and thinking about everything that's happened over the last few weeks, and that actually I want to create more content and just promote as many different things as possible: videos, podcasts, people, things to listen to, things to read, things to watch, and all those sorts of things, just to sort of take people's minds off of this negative situation. Because with everything, bad things will eventually end. And obviously we didn't have this coronavirus thing from years ago, so it obviously can't last for years, as long as we find a cure for it. But at the moment, it's just sort of a thing like cancer. You don't really know when it's going to happen. You don't really know who it's going to catch. And actually, you could be the most careful person and have all the protective gear, but actually you might still have the infection yourself. So I think that's personally one of the most important things about the situation, that you don't go outside unless you physically have to get medication, have to get food, potentially taking food to an elderly person's house, someone that you're caring for, or someone that you know, or a family member, or a friend's family member that you can actually access more than they can, or just to go on a walk, which actually, again, that is now being debated, that whether walks should be completely cancelled, and like it should be not illegal, but there should be maybe arrests or things put in place to restrict that. Because actually someone did actually make a good point on the news yesterday, that people can do their steps and people can walk around the house or their garden. It's obviously not the same, but even I've seen on social media, there are so many people doing home workouts and so many people that are making the most of this bad situation. They're still managing to work out, they're still managing to eat, they're still managing to create videos. It's just a way to sort of, you're still doing the same sorts of things, but you're aligning your life slightly differently, if that makes sense. So instead of going for a run at the gym, you may be going for a run in the garden. Instead of, I don't know, going to the cafe with your friends, you can video call someone on, I don't know, a website, and then just drink your cup of tea in front of them. So you're technically still on a cafe coffee sort of date, but you're not really actually there. Still socializing, shouldn't really be a problem. But I think for me, the problem is that people just don't listen. But yeah, I just thought, you know what, I'd create an introduction podcast, like I said, to just sort of get into the feel of podcasting again. Because like I said, September the 19th is a day I'm never going to forget, because that was the 4th podcast that I'd released. And yeah, I'm hoping to get a variety of different guests on here, whether it be people that I connect with and have spoken to on LinkedIn, my friends, people that are, I don't know, around the world, and just get their views and opinions on the situation. And actually just, I don't know, try and not stress people out, because it's a difficult situation, but it's the time for everyone to be the most creative and do things that distract people from the negative situations. So yeah, going back to what happened on the 1st of April, obviously it's the first day of a new month. So I thought actually that's why, firstly, I wanted to create a podcast about that and have that as my sort of starting point for now, because I don't know where this is going to take me. I can talk about anything for ever, basically. You can put a word in front of me and I'll speak about it for years. You can put an item in front of me, I'll tell you 10,000 reasons why that item is a great item. But to end a fantastic 1st of April, I was actually with a couple of one of my housemates, so Moksha, and her boyfriend, who actually came up to Nottingham a couple of weeks ago to sort of isolate with us, because he didn't want her to be on her own. And obviously, I don't think she could deal with me for 3 or 4 months. So we obviously now have a team of 3 of us. And we actually played a couple of games of Monodeal. We've been playing this now for the last couple of weeks. Well, the last week, I believe. It's basically Monopoly, but in terms of cards. So you have so many millions on cards. Each property is worth so many millions. You need to collect 2 or 3 or 4 properties of the same color in order to get a set. And there's a variety of magic cards like Uno, where you will have, for example, a slide deal, which means you can steal a card from any other player. You have a swap, so you swap any of your properties with somebody else's other property. A deal breaker means you get to steal a whole set, so a full set that someone's created, you get to steal it. You've got a just say no option, which if someone was to use an action card on you or make you pay rent or steal something from you, if you say just say no, that sort of cancels their move and then unable to do that unless they have a just say no, which basically turns no and no into yes, and then they can carry on doing what they want, along with a variety of other cards, including a variety of rent that people need to pay, depending on how many properties in the set you've got. So I think, for example, there's a set of 2 brown. You have to get 2 browns to get the set, and there's like, I don't know how many browns in the pack, but you only need 2 properties to make a full set of brown. And I think if you have 1 card, the rent is worth 2 million, and if you get 2 cards, the rent is worth 3 million. So if you were to put a brown rent card down, you would be owed 2 million if. So basically, I'm trying to explain this in the most easy way possible. Right, so the 2 brown cards make a set. So if you were to put 1 brown card down, people would owe you 2 million. So if you then put down a rent card, you would get owed 2 million by, I think it's all players. And then there's an alternative rent card, which forces 1 player to pay you. So obviously the more cards you have in the set, the more rent that you owed, but the more likely you are to have your cards stolen because you've therefore got a set. So it's still a thinky sort of game, like actual Monopoly, but instead of the pieces and the board, everything's just done through cards. So it is really, really interesting. I'm hoping to do a YouTube video about it, or at least film a little bit of gameplay about it, or I don't know, make a blog post about it. I don't really know. Just to sort of introduce the game, because it's nothing that I've played before. Literally the first time I played it, I think I won my first game within the first 3 games that we played, and I think that was the time where Moksha's boyfriend kept winning, and she just didn't want him. She didn't want him to win, and she didn't want me to lose. And I was so far away from winning, and then right at the end, I got the 2 cards that I needed, put them both down, and I won. So obviously, she was very, very happy, because she was happy that he didn't win, was happy that I won, and she didn't really care about losing. And that's all the part of the game. I think you can play up to 5 players. But like I said, it's something that I'd never experienced before, apart from until like a couple of weeks ago. But that's something that we do pretty much every night as like a daily routine, just playing the game to sort of, I don't know, see if I can actually win. And then actually yesterday I won 2 games out of the 3. The first game, I think they actually gave me the best cards to make me feel better, because after that first win I was losing every single game. And then my second game, I think I still had some good cards, but again, I managed to win. And again, I don't really know how, but I did okay. And yeah, what else did I do yesterday? Well, just before I went to bed, I just sort of collated together all my ideas for the different modules that I'm currently working on. So I've got a video coming out in a couple of weeks about sort of updating people what I have done so far in terms of my university work for 3rd year. And I've actually updated my website with a variety of different blog posts of all the different experiences that I've done, a variety of different work that I've completed, placements that I've done, interviews that I've had, and experiences that I've taken part in, for example. But yeah, so just a quick summary, the 5 modules that I've obviously got my practical dissertation. I've got a module called alternative media, where we have to create a short video on time, a short video on space, and a short video on body. Along with that, then we have to create our final video. So based on those 3 and the variety of research we do, that's our final video. Advanced multimedia, that's where we have to create a portfolio website based on a creative type. So I picked photographer. The website is nearly there. The only problem with that module is that I have a production log, so of evidence, which is over 20 slides. It's about 70 or 80 slides, and it's only supposed to be 20. So we actually have a lecture for that on the 3rd of April, so tomorrow. So hopefully they will be able to help me cut that down, or at least get my website up to scratch first. And once the website's done, then re-update the information for the production log, if that makes any sense. And then the last two modules, the fourth module was a group module called Advanced Media Practice. And for that module, we had to get into groups of varied skills and abilities and create a video for a real life provider. So we were working with the Workhouse Network, or the Network Workhouse, and we had to create a video based on the network and what they do. So I think 4 groups got a brief for the Network Workhouse, but our one was specifically about the network. I think one group got it about the Oliver Twist project that they were working on. Somebody else got it about, I don't know, one of the sites, but ours was about just the network rather than the sites. So why would people join the network? What can they get from the network? And what actually is the network about? We've pretty much finished that. We finished the video, handed that in, making any final changes to resubmit to the brief provider. And again, production log, I think our production log ended up being 114 odd slides long. So that was quite fun. But again, I'm going to do a YouTube video about that, or I'll do I'll do a YouTube video about that, and I might even use Zoom to record that because I can share my screen. And then in terms of the 5th module, it's media in the workplace, which is a continuation module from working in the media from 2nd year. And all we had to do was sort of collate all the information about us together. So our skills, our work experience, how we'll use social media, our LinkedIn, our CV, recommendations, conclusions, and a load of other stuff in the middle about us. And instead of having to create new information, we just had to sort of get everything together from other modules that we did. Our synoptic assessment, which we did last year, which I also created a YouTube video about. Our synoptic, and basically just following a list of contents and a list of criteria and finding evidence for the things that we say. So if we say we've got a skill at photography, pictures of us taking photography or pictures of us with a camera in our hand, just something that sort of shows, right, you've said this and that's your evidence, perfect, throughout the whole way through. And again, I think my slideshow ended up being about 80 or 85 slides long. And when I had my meeting about the updates, I just had to sort of include hyperlinks, which would hyperlink me from the main page to each of those specific pages rather than having to scroll through the whole thing. So that's what I've been up to. And that's pretty much been my mindset of just ideas at the moment, that obviously coronavirus has been around, me being a bit not that creative, but trying to get back into being creative. Like I said, updated my website, updated my blogs. I've obviously got now a portfolio for my photography, which I've submitted for a module, but I've also added that onto my actual website. I'm trying to get back into filming YouTube videos, doing podcasts, doing blog posts. And I think today I'm going to try and record a couple of reaction videos to some songs that have come out recently. So I think at the moment you've had Dua Lipa's album, Jake Wickenden has released a song all about the quarantine situation. He actually released a song called The Quarantine Song, so that's going to be quite interesting. I think Zara Larsson, Doja Cat. So there's a variety of music that has come out, most of it pop. But I think that's pretty what I'll get on with today, because I've actually did quite a lot of work this morning in terms of my website, the photography portfolio, actually updating that. So I feel like I'll sort of leave uni work for a bit and get back onto that tomorrow. But that's pretty much everything that has been on my mind recently. And like I said, this podcast has pretty much been all over the place. It's just a matter of, this is where my mind has been, or where my mind hasn't been, or where my mind potentially should have been. And what happened yesterday was the games, updating a variety of different types of my work, and actually just making sure that I'm on track, because although we do have extended deadlines, I still don't want to fall behind. I don't want to like leave everything to the last minute and then stress with everything. I think I've got a couple of weeks to do my dissertation. Dissertation is nearly there. I just have to create like a storyboard of what I would have actually put in my video, and then turn my storyboard into like an animated graphic or an animated video. Obviously, because of the situation, I can't actually go out and film people. But for my video, I would have done it just black screen with text and just having graphics pop up on the screen anyways. So I can still technically create the video I wanted to create, but I'll just use my images because it's a lot easier to do that. So I think that's it for this first podcast. Like I said, this is just an introduction podcast. It is currently the 2nd of April. This was sort of a reflection about the 1st of April, 2020. And hopefully this pandemic does sort of blow over and does leave us all alone. And hopefully China don't start getting back into the trade of selling wild animals again. just to make sure this doesn't happen again. And yeah, this is my first podcast of 2020. I can't believe I'm actually saying that. But like I said, I'm hoping to get back into this as regularly as I can. I'm hoping to do a podcast every single day, to just sort of update people on what I'm thinking about, what I'm doing, potentially getting a guest on, not every single day, but having someone to talk to rather than just myself. And just any thoughts that go through my head and any things I just want to talk about, I will just talk about. But yeah, I probably will be inserting this podcast as a blog post for my website as well. So for those people that have stumbled here from the website, hello. Or for those of you that have stumbled here, then obviously I have a website too. And yeah, until my next Sharing Thoughts podcast, thank you for listening, and I will be back very, very soon. So until then, goodbye.